Oh, you got her off and then she's just like, see you later?
Oh.
And I'm like...
He almost said like he loved me a few times.
Our mutual friends would have this very aggressive and wild sex. I don't even know how to make a move on my girlfriend. This is ridiculous.
Like, I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't want to hear it. Nope, we're good. We're good. We're fine.
When I stumbled across the avoidant personality, I was like, holy shit, I am doing all of these things. She's like, if you want to go and get some ass on the side, I'm cool with that. And it was basically a moving sex party.
Paying more attention to their actions and letting that speak more loudly than their words.
Welcome to the Inner Confidence Podcast, where we bring you men's dating and lifestyle advice that doesn't suck. I'm your host, Robbie Kramer, a former collegiate golfer turned poker pro turned finance guy who became obsessed with learning about male-female attraction and dynamics and passionate about teaching men how to improve and optimize their love life. Tune in each week and we'll bring you the latest and greatest strategies on how to get more dates, how to build a thriving social circle that brings the best men and women into your life, how to become a better networker, and how to design a lifestyle that makes all your buddies jealous. If you're new to the show, I recommend you download my first date protocol. It's the best piece of content I have. It'll help you optimize your first date and subsequent dates. And I like to connect with my listeners personally. So if you want to grab a copy of that, please send me a direct message on Instagram. I'm at Robbie_Kramer. Now let's dive into this week's content. Welcome back to the Inner Confidence Podcast. We are with two very special guests. One of those is Amir, who we've had on the show a couple times, and the other is Taylor. And they are coming straight for us from Austin, Texas, with the beautiful background. That is not a photograph on the wall, we promise. And that's real. And they're also drinking espresso martinis. I'm drinking tequila.
We have some for backup.
There's like a mixer right
Do I
behind
have a picture?
They're just like top us off while we're going.
Yeah, keep going. We're here.
So while they're drinking, we're going to be talking about an interesting topic today, closely defined as avoidant personality disorder. But as we know, all these different personality disorders, and I say that with the quotes, it's all sort of clinical psychobabble stuff. Is it true? Is it not? I don't want to get into that. But what I do find really interesting is that most of the time, in my experience, when I've dated a girl who's done lots of crazy, wacky stuff that I didn't expect, I've seen a lot of patterns in women that I've dated. And I've also seen the patterns in myself when I was in the wrong relationships. And those patterns would, categorize me as either a narcissist or my partner as a narcissist or avoidant or multiple personality disorder or borderline personality disorder. What's the other one? What's BPD? Bipolar, right? So you've got all these different
Close,
they're all comorbid with each other, which means they're all overlapping like crazy. So, if you think your girlfriend's a narcissist, she's probably avoidant in many ways. If she has multiple personality disorder, one of those personalities is probably avoidant. I think an easier way to just kind of lump a lot of these things up and call a spade is when you're dating someone who doesn't just really show up and give you love and show you affection and kind of behave in a way that a normal partner should. We can kind of throw that under the classification of avoidant, I guess you could say. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, avoidance is pretty distinct from some of the others. It has I've got a lot of experience with borderline and but avoidance feels like a unique beast to me. Do you agree?
I do agree. Yeah. I mean, the 12-year-old definition of avoidant personality disorder is someone who's so scared of rejection that, they're never going to platform speak. They're never going to put themselves out there. They're definitely never going to date because of the possibility of rejection. But obviously we're talking about situations where people are dating, right? And now how that disorder kind of manifests into a partner. And when it comes to I guess a more clinical definition of, they call it AVPD, and it's categorized by pervasive patterns of social inhibition, feelings of inadequacy, and extreme sensitivity to negative evaluation. It's a chronic condition that usually begins in early adulthood. And these people decline jobs out of fear of disappointment. They're avoiding social situations, as I mentioned. They don't want to be negatively evaluated. They desire affection and acceptance, and they may fantasize about, the ideal relationships, but that fear of rejection leads them to sabotaging those relationships or avoiding the closeness in relationships.
So I don't care if any of that sounds familiar.
And when even
this is BPD, and so avoidant at all, like this is similar to avoidant too.
So BPD and avoidant, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Just the last part, really.
Last part, yeah.
But yeah, they're all, like you said, kind of blending with each other. Some are more prominent than others. So yeah.
yeah, I mean these things definitely impair like someone's ability to be in a relationship and to experience, you know, all the benefits of a relationship. So I'm excited because I get to share some stories about some avoidant partners, and Amir and Taylor are going to do the same. So Amir's going to kind of help me co-host. So what do we talk about next? Now that we've defined it.
Well, no, I love the definition, Robbie. Thank you. I think it's these definitions are useful, but like not like that rigid, right? Like it doesn't matter whether the person has a disorder. It's like these classifications help you identify behavior patterns, right? And like I feel like if they have tendencies that are like that, like for our purposes, we can just say they're avoidant. We don't have to worry about whether they're like in the DSM as avoidant, because who the fuck cares, right? We want the useful sort of practical thing, which is like they display these tendencies and as their partners, that's what matters to us, right? And so that's kind of the lens where I look at these. So I figure first I just wanted to kind of each of us talk a little bit through like some of our experience with avoidant people. I very, very recently, as of like 3 days ago or something, ended a very chaotic relationship with somebody that I've kind of come to believe has some like pretty fairly extreme avoidant tendencies. I know Taylor, what would you consider like a few months ago ended?
About a few months ago, it's really been kind of blurred. Like it's been gradually kind of ending, and yeah, let's say a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many similarities just thinking about that, where it's like hard to even define the relationship.
It's definitely hard to
because
define.
It's like so fucking.
It's because it's so out of the box.
You're in and then you're out. You're in, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's also hard to define when it started and when it's going to end, because they're avoiding. They're avoiding these.
You can't tell. You can't pinpoint when this person is actually like showing these tendencies until you start to see the pattern.
Yeah, it really helps watching. So watching some of what you went through. I remember when we had an overlap where you were like in it and I was in it.
I know.
And we were both like, oh, what the fuck is
what's going on? Okay, no, this is therapy. This is helping me. You share, I share. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so okay. Let's just. I'll start briefly with sort of background context. I don't think like the whole story arc is like super helpful for our discussion, but I just want to kind of give a little bit of context for a couple minutes on this person. I'm going to call her Kelly, and then you guys can kind of see what I do, and you guys can do the same.
Yeah.
So
mine is Matthew.
Matthew.
Yeah.
Matthew, it is. Is it Matthew or Matt?
We'll decide, Matt. Matt.
I mean, would you be upset if you were to call him Matt?
Let's just go with Matt. Yeah.
Matt.
Okay.
Cool.
Mine's
Kathy. Kathy.
Not Karen. Funny.
So I met Kelly through the social scene. Actually, she was part of the parties that I hosted in Austin. She actually chased me. Took me a while to realize like that she was fairly aggressively pursuing me. And then one day I actually called Robbie and I was like, hey, like this girl's like doing these things. He's like, are you fucking stupid? Like this girl is like super indie. It's like, oh, Jesus. Okay. And I mean, together is hard to define. I would say we were like clearly in some sort of like romantic relationship for 3-4 months. You know, it's ambiguous, right? And I would say the relationship was confusing and tumultuous from the beginning, because I think one of the things that I really wasn't used to. So first of all, most of the dating I've done is from online, right? So you meet somebody in this context of like, we're going on a date. Like you're into me at least on some level, or I'm into you on some level, and we're going to figure it out. So very little of my dating has been from sort of just like my social circle. And so it took me a while to figure out like that's what was going on in the first place. And I actually thought that was sort of like my fault. But as I got to know Kelly a lot better, I would say that a lot of it was because of like her avoidant tendencies, and sort of like the way she expressed interest and affection was so indirect and confusing. And actually, I would say the only times it became like really direct was when there was like competition, when there were like other girls that were expressing interest. Suddenly Kelly wanted her hand in mine and like wanted to be like started off real close and stuff. Like, but otherwise it was like super freaking ambiguous, right? And so we were non-exclusive.
Just to interject for 1 second, that's kind of the interesting thing. There's a pro and a con about meeting someone through your social circle versus online dating that way, because obviously if you meet them through your social circle, you have some time to evaluate them before you start hooking up, and you can see some of those red flags. Whereas with an online dating situation, you're there, you're on a date, if things go well, it's like, bam, things have escalated quickly, right? But the other tough thing is your social circle is, it's a little bit harder sometimes to tell, is this person into me or are they just being friendly because I'm friends with their friends, right? So it's a little bit of a gray area. So that can both help and hurt. And it sounds like you experienced kind of both of those things.
Yeah, totally. And I would say I was a little dense, picking up on like what were clearly pretty strong signals. And I would say then the competitive environments where it was like, me and Taylor and a bunch of her friends, one or two of whom I knew kind of were into me, like really made it obvious. And so that was when I talked to you. I would say we were non-exclusive, but there was a period in there where I felt really hard for her. I wanted to date her exclusively. In fact, I sort of preemptively stopped seeing other people, where I had something casual and fairly easy with, because I just wanted to see Kelly. And that ultimately did not end up working out. I would say the nature of the relationship was, it just kind of felt like there were kind of two things happening, like a power struggle, right? Was one thing. It's like literally like I would try to get her to sit still on the couch next to me, and then she would like continuously getting up to change the songs, right? And so there was like this, I would take her to a show, she wouldn't like that show. So like, there was this kind of like, there was this power struggle that was happening. And then also there's like these severe avoidant tendencies where we would start to get some level of intimacy that would start to feel good. And then like she would, I now realize, do things to sort of like shatter that intimacy. So we were always caught in these like repair cycles, right? Where like we would have, at first good half days together. And then by then we would have like 2-3 good days together, right? But then there was a week or 2 weeks of repair from something that was very damaging that she would do to distance me, which I understand better now. And I would enforce my boundaries with these timeouts, right? Because it's like the only healthy way to express a boundary is just to remove myself. So I would do that. It hurt me just as much as it hurt her because I was in love with her. And so we were constantly just trying to recapture the good parts, I would say, is like the dynamic of the relationship. And it just ended about a week ago. So that's my experience with avoidance. Taylor, I'm curious to hear how yours are the guys, so it's going to be different, right?
Yeah, this is great. Fantastic.
I love how we're getting
Matt. So yeah, I similarly met him in kind of the nightlife, social circle, or the nightlife of Austin. And yeah, from the beginning, he was very persistent, and I had just gotten out of a relationship. I wasn't looking for anything too serious. I just wanted to have fun and kind of, expand my circle, get to know more people and have fun. And things escalated kind of quickly, and I pushed back. I pushed back for a while, just like a couple months, but he was very persistent.
Wait, was this, you and I started throwing parties together in like November? Was this before that?
November last year. Yeah.
So, okay, how long before
that? I'd say maybe about 10 months ago, maybe.
So it's probably like what, summer last year?
Okay, yeah, maybe mid-summer last year. And he would call me regularly. He'd text me. He was just very persistent, and and now looking back, I'm like, man, that was definitely some love bombing there. But so I got to know a lot of his friends. He brought me around a lot. He was very casual with bringing me around family, and just didn't really like staple things that you would think are like, oh wow, this is important. This means he's like really invested. It turns out like it was just kind of, he didn't think through it as, he just did it because he wanted me there. Like it was more of like he was thinking he wanted me there because it was hard for him to be alone looking back at it. And that I didn't know that. And so I was like, oh wow, he's inviting me to this thing, like, and he's being so consistent and calling me, like he really.
So it was like insignificant for him compared
right.
to really significant.
Very strong. I remember seeing some of that. Yeah, strong. It was like, come with me and my family on this trip. Yeah,
let's do all these things. And like staring at me and like, I like you so much, and like
you're
like, stopping and telling just all these awesome things. And not only that, but because we were around his friends a lot of the time, everyone was validating with how much coming to me, even his friends and my friends coming to me and being like, wow, like y'all look really good together. Like this person hasn't been so open with someone recently for a while. Like this is really awesome. They did give me a little bit of warning signs, like here and there, but you know, that's what happens when you're starting to know someone new, I think. I mean,
like the friends gave you warning flags, or
some of his friends,
they were like, watch out.
They were just, they could tell because I was very genuine and just like, I wasn't out for like status or like money or whatever. I just wanted to have fun, and I was genuine in getting to know his friends and like us all hanging out. Like, so there was a period where, yeah, some of his friends were like, hey, I can tell you're a very genuine, sweet person, and I don't want to see you get hurt. And just, I know this person, I've known them for a long time, for years, and just be mindful, you know, and they're great, they're amazing, but make sure you know like what's happening here. And, but you know, make your own choices and decisions, and I'll support you and him in the best way we can. But yeah, are we going through the whole story?
No, I would just say, so you met him in the social circle. How long were y'all together? Kind of hard to define.
I would say probably, we never made it official. That's the thing. We never made it official. We said from the beginning it was more, we're not looking for anything serious. And it just kind of, we spent so much time together, it became more serious looking for us and for people around us. And after Christmas time, he had reminded me like, hey, like we did this extravagant thing for Christmas together, just us. And I think that's when it really scared him.
You're going too far. I'll get to that. But so you would say, so how long, if you had to put a number?
Okay, sorry. From early summer, I guess like 8 months. 8 months until we like really started like cutting it.
And so then, what was it like in the middle of it, right? Like, what would you say the dynamics of the relationship were like?
Oh man. When we were together, it was like we were committed and we were like in a relationship. It felt like we were a couple, and he had no problem showing me around to everybody and like bringing me around, and like was very like hands-on, like touch, like was one of his love languages, like affection, PDA, talked very highly of me in front of people, and like when I was around, asked me where I was, or asked friends like where I was to come find him. And then slowly it started to get to where like, okay, I'm not he's not calling me as much, not texting me as much. And then if I wasn't around, or if he wouldn't invite me as much to places. And if I wasn't around, it was almost like there was always someone there that he could give more attention to and affection to.
So it felt like at one point, it felt like you guys were like unofficial boyfriend, girlfriend, right. Super touchy and lovey.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, it's almost like he started pushing it away.
He started pushing it away, and he would buy me these gifts, and he would Yeah, gifting was a big one. Like, and it felt like he would almost get me a gift anytime he did something wrong or like something was wrong.
When you were away from him, could you come back? Would he have gifts for you?
Yeah, that happened.
All right, so I'm starting to take notes on things I'm doing that are similar. It's really interesting because it's like this is a sort of male avoidance tendencies, so I'm kind of like trying to figure out like, okay, like what are the things that cut across both genders? So it's awesome. Robbie, why don't you kind of give us your background here?
Well, I have an interesting possible thing I could mix in. So I'm gonna talk about Kathy, but also the way I found out about avoidant personality disorder is because I thought I had it. And I went Googling because I was in a relationship that like it was. So I think it'd be interesting just for me to start with that actually.
I mean, but that's how I found out. Like that's how I found out about narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. I had some ex who assumed because like I didn't want to do some shit with her and I was a narcissist, and then I was like, oh, like I'm gonna go read about that.
Right, exactly. Well, I had studied narcissism. I had studied all this stuff, and I had never heard of avoidant personality disorder, but like, and I had studied a lot of it, you know, read books on it, followed different YouTube program accounts, whatever. But I was in a relationship that wasn't really of my doing. Basically, a friend who was like a hookup buddy, she came to visit me. And I had no idea that she intended to like stay and move in with me and that she was really into me. She was basically just like, hey, can I come and like crash for a few days? And then like, you know, you help me set me up in Kiev and then I'll kind of be on my way. And then like, she just wouldn't leave. And, and I was, you know, I was bringing other girls over, having sex with them, going other places. Like I was in like my heyday of like bachelor period. And she's living at my house, but I've got other Airbnbs where I'm going. And like, as time goes on, like, it's just like, I called her like the cat, you know, that the cat came back. You ever seen that like nursery rhyme where it's like, you try to kill the cat, but she keeps coming back. I called her like the cat. No matter how, what's that?
Isn't that like a roach?
No matter what I tried to do to get rid of her, no matter how much like obnoxious behavior I threw in her face, she just wouldn't leave. And then eventually I was, you know, like, I don't know, I guess she kind of wore me down in a way. And I was like, maybe I'm in love. I'm not sure, but I never like.
I'm like, I'm taking note. That actually works. Okay. Wearing you down.
This was yeah. I was like, how is this working? Like it was, but it was very fascinating to me. And then like at one point I left Ukraine and I visited the US and I was like, you know, comparing her to the options around in the US. I'm like, wow, she's looking a lot better and a lot better. And then I went back to Ukraine and I'm like, maybe she is the one, right?
That's you.
No, Taylor, you're much better.
Wow, you're starting to look so much better.
No, but it was like I was going through this weird sort of mind fuck. And when I stumbled across the avoidant personality, I was like, holy shit, I am doing all of these things. And then I quickly realized, and then I hired a shrink and I like talked to him about all this stuff. And basically he was like, no, you're not avoidant. You're just with the wrong person and you're not excited.
I did with narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder. It was both the same thing. It was an ex gaslighting me. And the funniest fucking thing was the one with borderline personality disorder. After she did the borderline personality inventory, she was fucking clinically borderline. And I wasn't doing it, right? Same story.
Yeah. So that was my side of the story. You know, so eventually I was able to get her out of my place because of COVID, and I just moved out. Like I still, even it was whatever. Funny story. If you ever want to,
are you not able to be like, yeah, you got to go now? Is this like not one of your skills?
No, I did. Trust me, I did. But like, I don't. It's a long story, but how she would just keep coming back. I mean, I'm definitely a little bit too much of a pushover and a nice guy, but I mean, yeah. Anyway, so the other.
In my house one of the nights, by the way, and I fucking kick her out, right? But I kicked her out.
I changed the locks. Kicked her out, but then like COVID happened and she had nowhere to go. And what's that?
Was she a cat burglar? What the fuck is this chick?
Anyhow, but the other situation, where I felt like I dated someone that had many of these signs. They manifested actually later in the relationship. We started the relationship. It was like the most storybook, like on cloud nine, falling in love experience I had ever experienced. Like we were basically like, we couldn't leave the bedroom. We were together 24/7. This honeymoon, like getting all the feels, all the love that was happening for almost 3 weeks straight. And there was a long buildup prior to that where like we kind of hooked up, but she was dating someone. And then like I thought I lost her. And then I was able to like rekindle it 6 months later. And so I was like really invested and excited. And then when it came to fruition, when we finally like got together and hooked up, it was like, oh my God, I've been waiting for like this. It was like the most insane, amazing experience.
That's so dead on. Yes.
How long was it until y'all hooked up, right? Because you said that it was more of like for fun.
Well, so the first night we met, we actually like, we took some Molly together. We were making out, maybe got to third base, but like it stopped there. And she had a boyfriend, in Vegas. And like, I thought like the next night it would just kind of keep going. Cause we were hanging out through our social circle. She was in LA, like modeling. And the next night though, when we hung out, she was like totally distant. It was really weird. So,
that sort of hot and cold shit. Yeah.
Do you feel like it was like she was trying to like play a game, like make like do the hot and cold thing, or you think maybe?
I don't think she was doing anything consciously. Yeah. I thought it was maybe a mix of the Molly, like wearing off, plus, some other weird thing. But it was so weird to be like literally 12 hours before, 9 a.m. We're still awake, like looking into each other's eyes, making out, talking about our childhood trauma on Molly, right? And then 12 hours later, 11 p.m. the next night, she's just basically treating me like she doesn't even know me.
I mean, yeah, she had a boyfriend at the time, right? Like she could have got like kind of like, whoa, like we did Molly, we had an amazing time. Let me just take some time, push back a little bit, and like really be present in what just happened and think about this.
Well, right. I mean, I think that really characterizes avoidance here. At least I'm curious. Like, it's not one time; it's a pattern.
Right. Yeah.
It's over and over and over again. It's like we get close, and you find yourself being pushed away. For me, it was really so. Actually, let's go into that. Let's talk about like the avoidant behaviors, right? So, like, what the behaviors actually were like, and I'll describe some of the stuff that happened to me, and maybe we'll have Robbie and I go so we get sort of what it was like for a girl, and then we'll have you go and look like that. So now shifting into like the actual behaviors that were avoidant. So for me, it was a big list of sort of big and small ones, right? So let me see. I would say I found myself working twice as hard for half as much love, right? That's what it felt like being with an avoidance, right?
Oh yeah.
So I would see she was constantly destroying connection in little and big ways, right? So Gottman, so the idea of a bid for connection, right, Robbie? You want to explain briefly what a bid for connection is?
Wait, no, bid for connection? I'm familiar with Gottman, but not that specific term.
Okay, so bid for connection is if I was to see like, honey, isn't the sun beautiful over there, right? You're like, that's me saying like, hey, let's come together and like appreciate something. And if you were going to be like, oh yeah, that's really beautiful, babe, right? Like that's connection, right? That's me requesting shared attention. That's a bid for connection, right? In non-functional relationships, big and Gottman, she was like, whatever, or wouldn't look up, or like, who cares, right? Like, or just wouldn't acknowledge, right? And those are shutting down bids for connection. There's bids for connections that are little, right? Which are like, look at the sunset. And there's bids for connection that are big. They're like, I had a rough day. Like, I really could use some cuddles. Just like, I'm busy right now. Like, and so she was constantly destroying sort of bids for connection and any attempts at sort of connection. And which is interesting, Robbie, for me, because it made the times that we did connect like, oh my God, right? So like when we did have good sex, it was like great sex, right? Like when we did have like, when we did come together, like the highs were like super duper high. But I think the part of the reason is because like they were so fucking rare.
Well, they're fleeting, which makes them way more valuable, and they're happening less frequently as you're putting in more effort. So it's like your investment is ramping up, the payoff is going down. And so it's like you're just trying to get this one little nugget that is just increasingly fleeting. And that's like a textbook, definition.
The intimacy was so challenging, right? Like she wouldn't like kiss me good unless she was some level of fucked up, right? Even with a few drinks or whatever, like she would just sort of do these like pecks, and I'm such a touch person, right? I would say she like intimacy just in general was really difficult. She would literally get up and just run off and do something all the time, right? Like I at one point had to took the iPad down so she couldn't get up, run up over to and change the songs on the stereo, right? The last day I was with her, had this like crazy moment where she had asked about something from my past, and I was explaining, and she kept picking a comb up and like pretending there was a mustache and pretending it was a penis. It was like, put the fucking comb down, Like it was just anything she could do to sort of like destroy connection. It felt intentional, and like I later realized it was like pathological, right? She's the only woman I've ever been with who I had the experience twice of getting her off sexually, and then like she just like hopped up and went off and did something else. And I'm just like, it's not like you have to always get me off, but also like that feels really bad, right? Like it just
like before she got you off or after?
No, she didn't touch me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you got her off, and then she's just like, see you later?
Yeah, or like, I want to go do this thing now.
Oh.
And I'm like,
and you weren't finished.
I mean, I didn't necessarily have any expectations, but I had
of course.
I had some level.
That's cold, man. That's ice cold.
But
yeah, and but the intimacy was getting further and further apart from us. I would spend a week repairing with her to have like good sex one time, right? Like, and it was just like fuck. With any of the other girls I would see, like we would have sex 18 times in this time, right? Like,
well, that's exactly what ended up happening with Kathy. Almost to a T. I remember shocked one time where it's like, she had her orgasm, I hadn't, and she was just like, okay, I think I'm done. And I was like, really? What? Like that had never had that happen to me before, ever.
Well, mine didn't even acknowledge anything, right? And I was just like, and and I'm constantly, we'll get to this in a minute, but like constantly trying to figure out like, how should I behave here, right? Like, because this is like so novel of a situation, right? So the other thing I've noticed is because she had this need to run away from emotional tension, even good emotional tension, like we're too close, right? She had this need to run away from it. She would have to invent problems, right? So she would have to gaslight and invent problems or freak out over something that was an issue, whatever, because she needed a reason to get out of the emotional vulnerable place or with the intimacy or whatever, because she wasn't comfortable with it. And, so whatever that took, right? It's like the final night that she ran off. It was funny. I have this is a thing you probably don't know, but like, I've developed this mechanism because I've been blackmailed once by a girl. So when a girl starts acting crazy, I hit record on my voice memos on my phone.
I know a lot of guys like in the level that they're at. Like I understand that, like having to be careful.
So I did that with her the last night. Like it was just, and like I went back and listened to it. And it was just like fucking nuts, right? It was just like she just kind of kept things, and she kept doing this thing where she would say things I said. She'd be like, if you only would just say this exact phrase, and I'd be like, that exact phrase, right? And then she would like just go back and repeat herself, right? It was like completely nutty, because what she really needed to do was she needed to run away. She needed a bad guy to run away from. So she would kind of create the bad guy, right? So there was like
she's used to.
Right. And so that sort of like continuously kind of trying to get close physically, emotionally. It's obviously more emotional than physical. And sort of you would get it after so much work. It would feel like the fucking best.
Probably even better than getting it more regularly. If it was a healthier dynamic, because you were like aching, like that's what you were longing for. So it probably felt even more incredible,
Right. Well, so I'm going to
it turns you into a drug addict, effectively.
Right.
100%. By the way, like one of the things, my ex-wife was actually this way, and Kelly was this way, and they both had drug and alcohol problems, right? And I don't think that's a coincidence. But so I kind of want to hear from you guys. I want to talk about how it felt, and then how I tried to handle them. But I explained some of the behaviors that I saw. Robbie, like what were some of the things you saw?
I saw, so just to kind of wrap up the turn of events. So we had that, the quasi hookup followed by basically her total like denial of interest. And then we were still part of like a WhatsApp chat group with some other friends, and the flirting kind of remained in place. And then like 6 months later at Art Basel, she had a different boyfriend, and the similar situation happened where we like, hooked up but didn't go all the way, and then she broke up with that guy, and I was like, okay, clearly, like I could feel that she was like now really invested. And then basically from she came to New York, and then we kind of like moved in together and had this crazy like whirlwind romance.
Live together?
Well, she effectively came to stay with me with no return ticket. I mean, she had a return ticket, but it was like she was a model. She was just kind of like bouncing around from Miami to New York, and she didn't have like any plans. She didn't have a day job, and very quickly after like, I mean, she only planned to stay for like a week, and then the week turned into 2, and I'm like, why don't you just come with me down to Brazil, because we're running a immersion down there. And she's like, I've never been to Brazil. That sounds awesome. I'm like, cool, we're going for a month. And then, now we're basically in a relationship because we're living together. We're like effectively together. And then it was kind of like right around the 3-week mark. It went from sex all the time to like sex once a week, which is pretty aggressively different. And it seemed like she was like, went from couldn't take her hands off me to like never in the mood. And all the common things like, oh, I have a headache, or like all the silly like objections, cliche like that women make when they're not in the mood. And I'm like, how could she just immediately lose attraction for me? Like I was making me crazy, like trying to figure out what I did wrong that like sabotaged the whole thing. And I couldn't put my finger on any of it, because I was like, well, if she didn't like me anymore, she'd just break up with me. But she seems to like me. She wants to hang out all the time. We're basically living together. She tells everyone how much she loves me, but then she never wants to be like affectionate. I got to the point where I was so like scared to make a sexual advance because of the rejection that I just like basically stopped like trying to hook up with her at all. Like I was like, I don't even know how to make a move on my girlfriend. This is ridiculous. Because like not only would she like not be interested, but she would kind of like just reject me in a way that felt so bad. I couldn't bring myself to even try. So the only way I knew that would get her in the mood is if we partied, if we did Molly, if we did, Coke, and then the drugs would kick in, and then she'd be fun, and then we'd want to hook up, or she'd want to hook up. And that was incredibly toxic for the obvious reasons that I was doing that stuff all the time just so I could have, hook up with my girlfriend. It's like, this is broken.
Yeah. So my ex-wife, it was very much like that. It was like the only times that she would like have all those like normal desires was just like when she was like fucked up. Right. And with this latest one, it actually was because we weren't living together. Right. So I would set boundaries and push her away for a week or two. So then she would come back and she would want me back, and she'd try to use sex to like get me back. But then once she felt like she like had me, then it was like avoidant behaviors like all over again, The
one time I broke up with her during Coachella, she brought her friend to have a threesome with me the next day to get me back. I just had to walk away, and we had this whole like group Coachella trip. It was me and a bunch of friends renting a house, bunch of guys, bunch of girls. And, I was like, I'm going to have a miserable time here. And I bought like artist wristbands and spent, a gazillion dollars on the whole thing. So, I was just like, Kathy, I'm out. This is ridiculous. Like I'm going to have, our buddy drive you home, and I'm just done. And then at first she was like, you're a dick, blah, 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 getting all upset. And I just didn't really respond. And then like her anger turned into like, I know I've been terrible and a bitch and blah, 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 blah. And then like she came over and like, then she wanted to have sex, of course. And then later that night, she brought her friend around, and, we had a threesome. But then at the end of the threesome, right, like I looked at the other girl the wrong way and she flipped out. And then it was just back to square one.
Yeah, so like this sort of cyclical thing, right? Like seems to be characteristic of both of our experience. I want to talk about like how it felt and how you tried to handle it because I have like a lot of stuff there too. I know you coached me through a lot of it, but before I want to hear what were some of the like avoidant behaviors that presented with Matt.
With Matt, so with him, I noticed because I went down these rabbit holes, like trying to find the answers as well, because just things weren't making sense. The push and pull, and think we still weren't like officially in a relationship. Like, I noticed that he actually had. Sorry, I'm like going back. I noticed he actually had a little bit of arrested development. Is something I found out, which is similar to Peter Pan syndrome.
What is arrested development?
It's like when you are in a fight or flight state at a very young age, and you're not able to process your emotions in a healthy way and handle it in a healthy way. So you react in a way that maybe a 12-year-old would, or wherever you are at that age, in that emotional state that you are able to react, and you handle it in that way. And then the whatever is presenting that fight or flight effect on you, it actually goes away. And so you remember that as a kid. And so you continue to handle it with that in that way.
So it's like you would regress like a childlike state occasionally.
Occasionally,
right.
Yes. Okay. And so what was the question? Some of the avoidant tendencies I witnessed? Yeah,
what were, you can take your time, but like what were some of the when you sort of, in retrospect, what were some of the behaviors that feel avoidant?
It would definitely be like if I knew that we were hanging out and I worked, I would pick up gigs sometimes at a place that he'd hang out a lot at. And if he knew that I would be available for him, he would push back, and he would kind of like go and mingle and find someone that like could give him that like chase, that excitement of attention that he didn't know for sure if he could get. But it gave him that like dopamine effect that, oh, this is a new person he could get. And if they would not give him the time of day, or they'd leave, he'd come back to me and pursue me.
So when he felt like you were unavailable for whatever reason, right, he would run to somebody else. And then, but when he was around you, he treated you like you guys were together. And then, but if he got rejected by that other person, he would come running back to you as well.
It was very hot whenever there wasn't someone else getting his attention. And this was towards the middle, because in the beginning was like love bombing, and he wanted like to claim, like it felt like he wanted me on his team, like full send, like he was love bombing. But towards the middle, it was like if no one else was around, I was got his full undivided attention. And then if somebody else was, he just kind of pursued them.
What happened when you tried to talk to him directly about emotional stuff? Would he stay with you, or he kind of like, would he stick with it?
So it was hard for him to open up emotionally, but his go-to was like, I don't know, like I'm just doing X, Y, and Z. His go-to was like, I don't know. He wouldn't get too far into his emotions, but I was able to finally like bring some out of him only if I got him like alone and in a more intimate setting, privately.
What was it? Did sobriety, like, was it something that was consistent when you're sober, not sober, or did you find that it like helped to have drugs around, or?
So it was consistent when he was sober or not sober. But I did notice when he would have drugs around, or he was using something, like he was more vulnerable, and like kind of he almost said like he loved me a few times. Like he would bomb me even in that time where I knew he was pushing away, the hot and cold effect, when he was using something or whatever.
Did you have the feeling of like when he would get, because I have this feeling of like when he would get sort of messed up, you'd be sort of surprised by the depth of feelings that like weren't otherwise being told to you?
Yeah, actually. Like there'd be times where I'm sitting on his lap and someone is talking to him and they're trying to get his attention, and he's just staring at me, smiling. And like 10 Mississippis go by, he's still staring at me, and then he's not even acknowledging this person. And I look at that person who's trying to get his attention, and they just smile at me and see what's happening. And then he just looks at me and he says, "You are so damn beautiful." Like, just stuff like that. But then when he wasn't drunk or whatever, and something was exciting, there was another thrill, he'd go straight after that. It was like he was always chasing a thrill, and he always wanted to be with somebody. It's hard for him to be alone. And I was able to provide that for a period of time. And then when we got comfortable, and he knew I'd be there, then that's when he started shifting to someone else.
Robbie, Kathy, was she comfortable? Was she always in a relationship, or was she sort of like comfortable sometimes being single? What was your impression?
She was basically always in a relationship, like very quickly jumping from one to the next. Like before one was done, she would kind of jump to the next. And then I even saw her kind of like lining up another guy towards the end of our relationship when she could feel that
was
like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was definitely like that. And I should say that he had just gotten out of a serious, like, 2-year relationship where he was monogamous and was committed. He just knew he never wanted to, like, get married or, have kids. And
so was he forthright about that, or was this kind of something to pull out of him?
He was honest about that from the very beginning. Very beginning, he was honest. It's just throughout the duration of the situationship, he his
Did you
actions,
say situationship? Is that a thing?
It's a thing.
Have you heard of this?
It's a real thing.
Oh my fucking god! All right, whatever. It's like vibey, not a word.
Vibey's a word. Bootylicious is a word.
Moving on.
So, Urban Dictionary situationship. It's in there.
We'll look it up. So he was very clear about that from the beginning, and when he was sober, he was clear about it. But then throughout the duration of the situationship, it was his actions weren't meeting with his words, and I could tell he was getting emotionally invested. But as soon as I could tell and sense it, he'd start to pull back, and I think it was like fear driven.
So that's the core of the avoidant behavior. It's like once they felt that intimacy or that connection, they sort of run away from it. Mm-hmm. And I think that they operate at sort of different frequencies. So Kelly, I was never able to get like a single full weekend out of her, right? That did not end in, I think every single weekend, every single one ended in her running away and blowing it up, right? So she was like rapid oscillating, whatever the fuck this is, right? Mm-hmm. It sounds like Robbie, it sounds like Kathy was a little slower oscillating than that, right? It seems like you're able to have good weeks or good months.
We had really good, and then time period, really good, but less, really more time, really good, but less. And then in the end, in the end, I was saying she was just basically, she didn't leave, but she would get high. And I don't smoke weed, but she would get high all the time and just mentally check out. And so I was like, she was there, but she wasn't there.
Right.
See, for y'all, it seems like it's hot and cold from kind of beginning to end. For me, I don't know if it's like specifically for a girl to guy situation where the guy is avoidant or just my situation. But for me, it was like very, very hot. And then like towards the half mark. And then started getting more and more cold.
It felt like he would get, it felt like once there was like a level of intimacy achieved, I remember when this happened, he would sort of sabotage it, mm-hmm. and then he would lose it, and then he would rush to get it back, and then he would sabotage it again. And then that happened sort of like, it was more sabotaging and less loving.
It was more of the hot and cold towards the end. Yeah, but it was like hot. And then it's like, okay, shit, there's a level of intimacy achieved here. I'm going to sabotage this. And then wait, but no one else is there to catch me. Oh, let me go ahead and get her back and like do something really awesome. And then, okay, back and forth.
Does that resonate, Robbie? That feeling of like, once they felt like they were losing you, they would freak out trying to get you back?
Yeah. Well, they want the comfort and the security of like having someone, right? It's like, that's why these people that we're describing, like they're always in a relationship, but like it's kind of just for the security of being in a relationship when they're not actually doing the things that require the relationship to function. They're not actually present. They're not bringing up the things that bother them. They're not, expressing like an adult would what their needs are and how those needs can get met. They're just avoiding anytime like tension or something happens that they don't know how to deal with. They either like gaslight you and run off, or they, just avoid the situation completely and wait for you to figure out and ask them, what's wrong? Why are you like this? And then they, it's like these games.
How old was she when you were dating her?
She was 24.
Yeah. So mine is 25, just turned 25. She's very inventive on both reasons to sabotage and reasons to try to talk to me, right? Like right now, she sabotaged us Sunday, both Monday and Tuesday. She's found reason to try to talk to me, right? And she found a reason that she's like, the reasons to sabotage are just like the mind-boggling on how inventive they can be.
Oh yeah.
And then always finds a reason to sort of like need to talk to you or try to like get back in. She did the whole like classic. She did the like you and I talked about this before. Where it's like first they just text you if nothing happens, see if you let that slide, right? Then they gaslight you. Then you get nudes, right? There's just sort of this like, and then eventually you get like I'm super sorry, will you please? Like eventually towards the end, like you get like one of those, right? And it's like every single time. It's like sabotage is Saturday, Sunday, goes through all the stages of gaslighting until like Thursday, and then Friday the cycle sort of repeats.
So would you say for y'all, like if when they were hot and cold, was there somebody that they seemed more interested in and invested in that they were hanging out with on the side? For me, like if I wasn't there when we started getting hot and cold, he'd bring other girls around, and it was clear that these were girls that just kind of popped up out of nowhere and were available. No one really knew who they were. And
I did
available.
that. So I want to talk about the coping mechanism. So I want to hear how you guys handled this, right? But like, so I really wanted to be just with Kelly, right? Like, and it's the first time I felt that in years. You know how I felt about monogamy for a while. I've been pretty afraid of monogamy, I'd say. It's the first time I felt that in years. And so I shut down other options, and I was trying just to be with her. And then I had these like really traumatic events. I know you guys both know about them, but like stuff where it was like, she's staying at my place. We like, had this, we were going to this party with friends, and she like leaves me at the party. I go home alone, just like shit like that. It's just like, man, this is like brutally traumatic. I'm in love with this person. And what I did to comfort myself is like, I saw other women that I wasn't as nearly as interested in. Right. Like, and the other women could kind of tell like that I wasn't like nearly as invested as or as they were. Right. But it was just like, it felt so fucking bad. Right. Like to be pushed away sort of like, and for me, my experience was, it was at like some of the places where I was like, feeling the most connection that I would then be pushed aside, right? And it's just so brutal. And like the only coping mechanism that really helped, talking to the inner confidence group, like the guys there, just like fucking A+, super supportive. I love you guys. But the other one was just seeing other women that like I wasn't sort of nearly as attracted to, but it softened. It softened the blow, right? And what's funny is now is sort of on the other side of it, actually, like I come to appreciate some of those other women. I'm just like, actually, she's not as intoxicating because she's not as toxic, right? But actually she's like sort of, always been there for me, right? And so that whole like running to other women thing, like I definitely did that, but it's funny because I'm on the other side of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so maybe that's a guy thing. I don't know. What do you think, Robbie?
Well, my situation was kind of unique. Maybe not. She was from the get-go of the opinion that monogamy is cool, but she doesn't care if her guy's monogamous. She's like, I'm basically monogamous, but you don't have to be. She's like, if you want to go and get some ass on the side, I'm cool with that. She was into girls. So I was like, oh, jackpot. I can do what I want within means. I actually didn't really want to, though. I was so in love with her. I didn't really give a shit about like other women. But, we'd go out and we'd get fucked up. And then, of course, like the idea of like a threesome or this or that would like pop up, and that would seem like fun. But then when it like push came to shove, she would always kind of sabotage those situations. She would be like, yeah, let's go out and like, find a girl. Or I really like, she'd name girls that she like wanted to hook up with. And she's like, let's go after this girl. Like it was her, a lot of being generated by her. But then, at the 1 yard line, something would happen and it wouldn't really go down. But then I think it was very difficult for me to kind of know what to do because I didn't want to push on that. But at the same time, when she was like green light, I was like, yeah, I want to push on that. So I kept finding myself in these situations where I'm kind of like, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. Right. And then it got even more confusing because then we went to Burning Man and we were like camping with this group of people called Trifecta, which was, that's the name. Trifecta.
Sounds like a church group or
They literally brought an RV from it was usually parked at Mardi Gras, but they brought the RV and it was basically a moving sex party. Like at Burning Man, they had the orgy dome, but this was actually like in Trifecta, they had like the RV sex RV, but no one knew about it except for the people in the camp. But like before I knew it, like without even, and I didn't choose the camp, like my buddy chose the camp. I just somehow ended up in this Trifecta camp. And then all of a sudden, like, we're in these situations and I was like, I didn't care that much. Like I just wanted things to be good with her, but things escalated quickly. And then jealousy started happening because like she saw me hook up, I saw her hook up. And that just like threw gasoline onto the fire, and things just got progressively worse and more just more weird. Because now it's like instead of our fights just being about other things, they were also about these jealousy things, and so it got really convoluted, I guess. And it was hard for me, and certainly I'm no angel either, right? But I felt like the difference was I was always pushing for us to be better. Like I was always the one championing for our relationship and to work things out and to talk it through. I certainly wasn't an angel. Like I was definitely up to some, crazy sex stuff and pushing that. But it was
no.
But she didn't want to work on it. She was just like, no, I'm just going to get high. Like that was her sort of deal. And eventually I just felt like I was just, I was running the ball was like, what's the expression? I was carrying the ball and she wasn't doing anything to help improve it and just pointing the finger. And that's why eventually I really painfully broke it off. And I would have never had the courage to break it off if it wasn't for the inner confidence group and the other guys who were just like, dude, this is not a good situation. This is a really bad, toxic situation. You have no power here. You're getting turned down for sex, but at the same time, she's like wanting to have like threesomes and stuff. And it's just, I was like living in a crazy world. It just felt like I was like Looney Tunes. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And, finally, when I walked away, it started to make a little bit more sense. But it was very confusing. And luckily, I had the support of the community to be like, dude, walk away from this. It's just only going to get worse. So
yeah, so many similarities there. I would say like moving into how you handle the behaviors. I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of like how I handled when these things started happening. I mean, the first thing I did was start seeing other people just because like I had to spend these like prolonged periods. And Taylor, I would talk to you about it, like these prolonged periods are just like, hey, she just violated my boundaries so aggressively that I can't see her, right? And also like I'm confused, right? Like I'm confused about like what her expectations are, if like she feels the same way I feel, right? Like, so at first thing I did was like I would start seeing other people, which helped some. It would help sort of soften the blow, but like it wasn't like that much help, frankly. So I was in love with this person. And I would say some of the things that you said, Robbie, like super resonate. Like I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like what I could have done, like so much time, just like what could I have done? What could I have done?
How did I screw up? Like you want to take responsibility because with responsibility comes, that ownership to change something. But it's like when you're looking for it and it's just not there, it's really torturous.
Well, and it was some of the most interesting stuff, and it's been really helpful. The guys in our confidence group, I would explain to them, like actually this happened the other day. I told Robbie, I was like, yeah, like we kept trying to have sex, and she kept jumping up to change the song every 2 minutes. And I told her like I can't be intimate with somebody who's doing that. And Robbie, you were like in the group, you were just like, yo, if a girl did that to me, I would lose my shit on it, right? Like, and it was helpful because you kind of get like in this bizarre, like you said, bizarro world where you kind of don't know which direction is up, and you kind of lose yourself in it. And then it's helpful to talk to y'all who are like, yo, bro, like that's weird. Like you're right. Like that's weird, right? Like, and so.
Well, you become accustomed. Like she does that all the time. It's just like that becomes the new normal. Oh yeah, she always just gets up to change the music. Doesn't matter if it's sex or this or that. It's just like, oh, that's just her being her. It's like, no, that is fucked up. Like that is not.
Yeah.
That is yeah.
So it was a lot of. I think the smartest thing I did, and you guys pushed me into it, was like, hey, don't invest everything in this girl. Like it's not safe. See other women. Even if you're not as in love with them, right? Like just. And that was super smart. You guys also told me to lean on my friends. Taylor, thank you so much. I fucking called. We called each other like for 3 times a week talking shit. Yeah. So that was some of the ways that I handled it. But I would say I spent during this several month period, spent a lot of time just like in a lot of emotional distress, which felt really unfair because all I really want to do was just love her and give her anything she wanted or needed, right? Like it was very challenging because it wasn't like I'm used to girls testing me and me having to prove my strength. This was a whole other thing, right? This is like long after I've proven my strength. At this point, like she's just like hurting me at the times when like I'm the most vulnerable, right? And it was just like really brutally challenging. And the only coping I had was leaning to other girls and then y'all folks. How did you handle?
Well, once you realized what was happening and you saw the patterns, it's almost like you really obviously you care about this person. You want to try to help them. And so once you realize the patterns, it's like, shit, what can I do to be there for them? You're not really thinking of yourself that much because you are kind of focused on them. And like,
well, this is, you definitely did that. This is very much Taylor. It's like, he hurts you and then you're worried about, well,
you were very considerate though of where she was at. Like you dissected the situation and were really being understanding to kind of where she was at. You never pushed your boundaries though. Like there one or a couple times maybe, but you were very adamant about like putting yourself first and doing what's right for you. But at the same time, you were considerate of like dissecting where she's at and understanding where she's at. Yeah. So for me, like my
sounds like you became way more codependent, Taylor. Would you say that? Because that's how I became. Like, and when someone's being avoidant, it's just going to make the other person, if you lean in, right, you're just going to become more codependent and more invested in trying to fix the situation. So is that what you mean, or is it different?
Well, so for me, as soon as I started to see the behaviors, the patterns, I was like, okay, this person is, okay, I think he's avoidant. This is because he's afraid of intimacy and he's afraid of connecting with someone because he's afraid of getting hurt. So I did actually lean on my friends more and push back a little bit and I tried to be more cool and giving him space, but I know that like, yeah, I was ready to help him when he needed help. And like, I was ready to be there for him when he had asked me for help. And, like, what's it called? Yeah, I was just thinking of ways that he could trust me. I could get him to trust me and not be afraid and try to like solve that issue. But the problem is that avoidant tendencies, like they come from a trauma, like from something they have to work out on their own.
It has this way of like consuming your every thought. Like I noticed this with you and with me, which is like, I remember specifically telling you, I remember where we were in my house when I was telling you this. I was like, all your solutions seem centered on what he thinks, right? Like, what?
Right. That's exactly what happened. And I didn't even recognize the language. Like I was speaking, like where my problem solving was coming from until I was speaking to Amir and he was like, Taylor, ask yourself what would benefit you in this situation. Like, don't think about his needs. Don't think about like what's going to make him feel better. Think of like what would make you happy and what you need. Because every time there was a problem and I was like trying to figure out what to do or whatever, I was like, but I think he's just feeling this way. And I think, I don't want to respond this way because it would probably trigger him in this way. And like, this is what he needs right now and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't really consider what I needed that much because I felt like, okay, this is the person who's showing tendencies of a a disorder or whatever. Like he's not dissecting me, and I didn't feel like I was showing tendencies. I wasn't dissecting me. My focus was on him. I probably was showing tendencies of codependence, but I was focused on him, and I was like, okay, like I'm thinking of him because I care about him, but that would just push them away even more, obviously. And so,
well, the interesting thing I remember, because when I was in Austin, we were talking about this.
Oh yeah, I forgot. This is in the middle of this.
Oh yeah. And you had explained everything that was going on, and I was like, I feel like there's only one solution for you, and that's just basically to like give him a lot of distance and a lot of space. However, due to the sort of like nature of like some of the work, like, and that relationship, like you couldn't do that, which is like very clever on his part. And I'm like, wow, that guy set that up like that, I bet, to the point where it's like he can have you really close and it's because of work, but it's, it's like there's essentially he can keep you around without keeping you around, and it makes it very difficult for you to cut the cord.
Because I was working like in his vicinity a lot, and so
right.
It was like even if I did give him space,
also your communities were so interwoven in general.
They were, and so we have almost 200 people in common on Instagram. Literally, that's probably the most I have with anybody. That's a lot. And so even if I did try to give him space, it was more of like in an emotional way, because physically I wasn't in a place to give him space at the time because, finances, social circles, friend groups, like people we had connected with together, we felt like family. The real cold turkey, the real space would have been cold turkey, find another job, find another friend group. And I just wasn't in a place to do that. And I was like,
impossible.
Maybe I can just be emotionally intelligent enough to do it and to give him that.
That's too hard. It's too hard.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. Ask all our friends. Like I did a really great job. I carried myself with so much grace in so many situations where I saw him like with other people, and I was working, and I saw everything. I saw things unravel in front of me, and I was just like,
that would have.
You told me that one story. I was like, wow, I was so impressed the way you handled that. But it's like impossible to be physically around someone and not get emotionally, like your emotions are way stronger than your logic, and those emotions are going to like win. And the fact that you were able to like channel those emotions through you and not freak out was very impressive. Like, I think you have an amazing emotional capacity.
Few freakouts, but it was never in front of him and other people.
Totally.
Ever.
That was one of the things I was the most proud of.
I handled my emotions at home, and I carried myself with so much grace. And yes, I'm not a robot. Like these emotions, like what I see, it does trigger me, and but you have to. I know at the end of the day, thinking with emotion, like in a situation that's like heightened like that, vibrations are high. You're not going to get the right response you want. You're not going to get anywhere. I was thinking very logically, and what is how can I operate out of love? Let me just focus on love right now. What would be the best for both of us and everyone? And then when I would get home, the tears would come out. Like I let it all out, and I processed as much as I could possibly allow myself to. And then, I tried so hard to carry myself with grace, and I think I did achieve that.
I think you did great. So one of the things, I'm kind of curious about this because Robbie lived with it, right? So you and I lived apart from our people, and I've been pretty good. Like, so you sometimes saw the raw version. Robbie and the guys in their confidence community, like there were days where I was just in the Discord, just like, just like fucking like everything I did, every emotion I had. She never saw any of that. She only saw like super measured and responses.
Sometimes what you saw me, or sometimes what you would send me from the Discord, like this is how I handled it. Like, and I was like, but no, you I only saw like at the.
Yeah, I'm very happy with how I presented to her. But the reason I was able to do this is because I had a confidence community. I had great friends like Taylor and Robbie. And I didn't live with her, right? Like Robbie, like she lived with me.
That's
So
wild.
yeah. So how is that for you? Like you can't sort of like time out and go straight. Like how did you handle that?
So at the time, I also had like friends that were constantly coming to like stay with us. We were on the road. Basically, we were together from like January through September 15th, and we literally went to a festival almost every single week or weekend. We went to, both Coachellas, we went to Burning Man, we were in Europe for 2 months, we were in South America for Brazil, what's the festival called? The big one. Carnival. Like we were literally always with people, always surrounded, always partying, because like a couple days went by without that, I just started feeling like really bad. Like what is going on? So I was kind of like, and luckily I was really busy with the group, and we had a bunch of guys in the group. We were doing all these trips. But I was doing everything to distract myself and surround myself with like my support group and friends that would like bring out the best in her and the best in me. And it was those weeks where it was just like me and her living alone at my place where I was the most depressed. And I found myself constantly on the phone with my close friends. Like, what do I do? This is so bad. This is so miserable. Like, should I break up? Should I not? Oh my God, I've never been this in love with someone. How could I walk away? It was really, really confusing and painful. And I didn't get any like real work done that year. I probably spent way north of like $50,000 on all the festivals and the traveling and stuff. So it was like a huge bank account destroyer, emotional destroyer. Like all of my time and energy went into like getting back to this place that we were at in those first 2 weeks. And every dollar in time invested was like such a tiny return that eventually like I found myself going into like a rage when we were in Vegas. And it was the first time I had like really like lost my temper, and I was like yelling and screaming at the top of my lungs, like, what the fuck? Like throwing shit at the wall. I'm like, I had never like actually done that before in any situation aside from like when I was pissed on the golf course, which we don't have to talk about. But like I found myself being like, this is really bad. And then this is insanely unhealthy thing, and I was like, I'm done. And then we broke up. So like I lost my shit. Mm-hmm.
I want to go into that. Like, so we talked about the circumstances of meeting our people. We talked about the behavior patterns. We talked about sort of like how we tried to sort of like handle the behavior patterns. I want to hear sort of like what was the effect on you and your personal relationships. I'll give you guys mine. And like, so I haven't raised my voice in an argument with a woman in 3 years, probably. And this Sunday, like I found myself yelling, right? Like, and that was, for me, that was the end. I was like, and I told her, I was like, I don't do this. Right. Like, and sort of like that, sort of like, I found myself yelling. And even the way it ended was explosive. And I haven't experienced anything like that for like a long, long time, because I haven't put myself in those sort of toxic situations before. So I found it bringing out some of my worst tendencies, I would say. I remember this day I was at the airport. I was in the airport. I talked to both of y'all fuckers. Like I talked to you and I talked to you. And it was just like, I just felt like, and I have a son too. And I feel like it had the impact it had on me was like, it brought out some of my worst tendencies. And I would say it took all the air out of the room, in my other relationships too. Cause I just found myself like constantly like worked up and recovering or like elated. And you'd see the like, oh my God, things are amazing. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Right. Like that's it. And it took time. It took a lot of energy away from my son, to the point where when I told my son that I wasn't going to see Kelly anymore, he said, good, I don't like her. Right. Like, and
that's
like,
great.
Yeah. Other thing I will say, and this goes back to the whole physical thing. Dude, I had like started having like massive like sexual anxiety with her, because you would like get close and you start having really great sex, and then like she would break it, and then you have to like repair, and it's like your body doesn't lie, right? Like about like how safe you actually feel, right? And so I would find myself like, yo, like I don't think I can have sex right now, right? Like, it was just like this weird, it was like this weird sort of like, it was like almost like creating dysfunction, inside me, like physically and mentally.
I had the exact same experience. I went from like, my greatest hero of a sexual tiger when we first started together to the point where I was like completely useless at the end, because it was like, oh my God, is she going to change her mind? Is this going to happen? Is this going to be okay? And my body was just like, no, you're,
Yep.
Sorry, not working with you here. So it was horrible. Yeah.
How did it affect you? How did it affect your emotional state outside the relationship? How did it affect your relationships with other people?
Well, kind of similar to what you were mentioning. I was definitely leaning on my friends a lot more than I usually was, and they were all great and like very happy to help, and like your best friends always show up for you in that regard. And but I was just neglecting basically anything else that I was interested in. Like I was neglecting all my hobbies. I was neglecting my career. I was neglecting most of my friendships. I was just caught up in this like tunnel vision whirlwind of how do I get back to this loving, amazing, utopia that we created in those first 3 weeks, which was just a drug fueled high, really, when I look back on it. And like just that, I mean, it wasn't just that, obviously. It was like, that's how these people kind of operate. It's like you're in this amazing, connected experience, and they can't stay there, right? They can't function there. They are avoidant, and they avoid that love. For them, that love feels too scary, too intimate, and they have to take it away because that's what feels comfortable to them. And I'm trying to get it back the whole time and just failing miserably. And eventually you just got to be like, all right, I quit. I'm walking away from this. This is a losing proposition.
Totally. Well, I'm curious what you're...
Yeah, so I focused on spending time with him a lot. Like I prioritized that. I noticed like I would want to spend time with friends, but if there was an opportunity for me to spend time with him, I prioritized that because I wanted to see if there was something I could do to maybe like fix it and get to another level or whatever. I noticed that outside of us, our friends, since we had similar friends in common, they weren't sure like where we were at. Are they still a thing or are they not? Like they didn't know the story, they didn't know what happened, but they knew how he operates with a relationship or with a person, and they kind of had a sense that, okay, he's just not mature and ready for this.
I really struggled with embarrassment because people would see us together, they would assume things, or even like my friends, I would call and I would tell them how excited I am, how in love I am. I fucking called you and told you that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and then like 2 days later, I'm calling you and I'm bawling, right? Right. So I was embarrassed all the time,
Well, so dealing with embarrassment, like I only had a couple friends that I felt like I could really communicate this to because
here, baby, yes.
And it was this guy right here, because after a while, it's like I feel like this is a repeat. Like this, I feel like I just like that people are getting sick of hearing about this. We all know what's going on, and I'm still attached and still trying to process it. So Amir was always there to be like, I get it. Just let's fucking go. Let's tea time it out. And then, yeah, there was embarrassment with my friend, our social circle. We had friends in common and we'd all be out somewhere and there'd be a party or something happening that Matt was planning or that night or whatever. And he had invited everyone else except for me because he was trying to get space. But it was hard because we all had the same friends in common, a lot in common. So I didn't hear about this party or I didn't hear about this event. Even though he said like, yeah, he's not going to exclude me. And like it's everyone, we're all friends here and we all want to like still keep the vibes together and do things together. Naturally, of course, getting space, there were things that I could not be a part of. So I would say either like, no, I didn't actually hear about it. Or then I just started to say like, oh yeah, no, I have plans. I'm not going to be able to make it.
Did you sort of struggle with the sort of embarrassment of the situation?
Yeah. I mean, I was always just feeling ridiculous because things would go from hot and cold so quickly. And, like sometimes we'd go and hang out with new friends. And I was always like very worried that we would get in a fight and then I would lose my temper or something would happen. And it was just like I don't know. I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells to like not make mistakes. And then at the same time, worried about like what other people were thinking. And it was such a whirlwind of emotions. There was definitely a lot of embarrassment kind of baked in, and a lot of embarrassment about like how I kind of handled these different situations. Like I remember one time at Burning Man, I got super pissed off when she was acting like annoying, and I like threw my bike into like a bunch of other bikes, and like people were like, who's that psychopath? You know, like just doing things.
I'm gonna turn the juice down, buddy.
Seriously, I just kept getting like so mad about things because like I just was like, I don't know what to do. And then I do embarrassing things when I was angry and then regret it.
Yeah, I mean the group actually, I pour so much embarrassing emotion to the group. Y'all were like very kind to some of my. I had some pretty solid rants in there.
So for the record, I handled myself better than y'all did.
For sure.
Everybody handled themselves better than Robbie did, it sounds like.
Yes. I lose that one.
More like, just out in public kind of things. But
yeah,
still a lot.
I think that what I would say is like there's this like turned inwards confusion, shame, embarrassment, and just like kind of and this like cyclicality to it that became like really addictive. So one thing that I really noticed with Kelly was I'm curious to hear. I suspect not from you, but I'm curious to hear from Robbie. There were some really specific triggers that would cause her avoidant tendencies to like super duper come out, right? So one of the things that I was honest with her about when she finally asked was like, hey, in those times when she like, I ditched you or whatever, like, did you see any other women, you know? And I was like, yeah, I did, right? And then after that, it became this like massive set of triggers for her. And like anything, and she kept asking me, she would pick our friends and be like, did you sleep with her? Did you sleep with her, right? Like, and it just became, and then when she eventually did blow things up on Sunday for the last time, of course, this was the trigger, right? And it just became, I think, the most convenient excuse, although she carries specific trauma around this because of some of her childhood dynamics. But I'm curious. So for me, there was very much that was a trigger, and which is ironic because the reason I saw other people was because of her avoidant behaviors, right? Because I didn't want to see other people. And the funniest thing about it is like the last time it got brought up, I was letting her know that I was going to break things off with other people so I could see just her, right? Which is like a positive thing, but it still triggered her. And then she had to blow everything up, right? And I was like, oh, well, I'm really glad I didn't break everything up with anybody else now, you know? So I'm curious, Robbie, did you notice that there were triggers that caused the avoidant behavior to come out, or was it random?
Well, I had this really crazy situation with her. I'm really curious what you guys would make of this. It was a very unique situation in the fact that like our mutual friends would have this very aggressive and wild sex that we could hear from the other room. And Kathy was under the impression that it was an abusive situation. And
it was aggressive sex?
Like extremely aggressive, where she was under the impression that like he was like beating her up. And I'm like, well, I know this guy. I've known him for a long time. I don't think he would do that. And we knew she really liked aggressive, crazy sex. And we also knew that she was like very much capable of maybe like, we didn't know what to believe, basically. Like we didn't know if there was like an abusive situation happening or it was just crazy sex. And we couldn't get the straight story from her friend. But essentially, Kathy made up that she was like, no, it's definitely abuse. And you need to do something about it, Robbie. You need to stand up. And I'm like, first of all, that's not my job. Second of all, maybe it's not abusive. Third of all, what the fuck do you want me to do? Like,
friend and not your friend.
Well, it's my friend who is, doing the alleged abuse, right? Mm-hmm. And like, then she was like
all the time, like
it was like in the beginning when we were all like hanging out together and living in the same place, and then like she basically, you know, when it was kind of happening there, she was like, okay, she decided that that's what was happening, and I decided I don't think that was happening. And there were other people around too, and they were like, we don't know, like maybe, I know that they're into that crazy stuff. Maybe, things get kinky and it sounds bad. Like we're hearing these things from the other room they could sound like abuse, but they could also just sound like wild and crazy sex. And we can't get the story, right? Of course, I then asked them later, like when her and I broke up, and I was like, what was going on there? And they're like, no, we were just having like wild and crazy sex. But she made up this big thing that like I was a pussy because I wasn't confronting him and like saving her from an abusive relationship. Not her, Kathy, but her friend. And it really fucked up our relationship because that guy was like one of my best friends. We were hanging out all the time. She was very close friends with his girl. And so it kind of became this weird situation where it's like she didn't really want to hang out with him, but she still did. And when she would party, she would want to hang out with him. So I was just kind of caught like in this weird, situation where she was like, you need to stand up and say something. And I'm like, that's not my business. And it was very confusing for me. And she just manipulated me all the time with this nonsense. And like, that was like, anytime she would get upset, she would like emasculate me and tell me about this situation, even like randomly out of nowhere. And it was just so weird. So I don't know if that's relevant to the question.
Well,
but.
so what I know about the last thing you made is, it's like when she would get upset, she would find a way to bring it back. It was funny because she actually a couple times slipped the word cheating out there. I was like, whoa, hold the fucking phone. Like, that's not going to fly, right? It was like when she would get upset, she would pull in stuff, right? And it was typically stuff that was like around her sort of trigger topics, and then she would use that to rationalize the sort of runaway.
Like old stuff, though. That wasn't kind of really irrelevant that much.
Like old stuff, but not old stuff, like made up stuff, right? Like it's like we were never in an exclusive relationship, ergo I could never cheat, right? And she has a past with cheating that's very traumatic, and
right.
and so she would sort of pull stuff like that in, and she kept pulling friends of ours, like, I know it was this part, like she would kind of just, it was like there was a trigger topic and she'd get upset and she would pull the trigger topics in, and then she would sort of flame herself about the trigger topics and then use that as the excuse she needed to run away, because really she was just uncomfortable with the amount of like actual love that was in the room at the time, right?
For sure. Yeah, it was very much the same thing. She'd always, default back to, oh, things are good. Wait a second. No, they're not. I'm going to bring this subject up that is like totally irrelevant and make that a problem. It was just like, she was just constantly like throwing smoke screens and bombs. Like anytime things are good, it's just like, nope, bam, bam, bam. Things are bad again. And I feel good.
Yeah, and the thing about that particular thing for me is like I was always in a state of hyperarousal in a negative sense, right? I was always in this sort of state of anxiety because I just felt like I had to be hyper vigilant about like whatever might come at me, right? And I just didn't know when it would come. And then I would get, 2 days in, start to relax, and then it hits, right? And it was just like, it was very, it created like a very strong stress reaction over time,
Sounds pretty toxic.
Real fun. I kind of don't doubt that a lot of that applies to your situation. I'm curious.
That was stressful, like the bringing up old things.
He didn't seem like he attacked you, right? So I was always under attack.
That's
right?
the thing. I was never under attack.
Yeah.
And he always tried to make things just very light and airy and fun, because that was, at the end of the day, I think his prerogative with seeing me was just keeping things light. And that's, when things got more serious, that's when he pushed away. But like, I never felt under attack for anything. I will say the only friction that there was if a topic came up with me possibly being with with maybe someone I saw in my past or somebody that maybe I was seeing at the time. He was like, I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't want to hear it. Nope, we're good. We're fine. Yeah, like intimately too, when we were like having sex or whatever. It was like, you mean like I'm the first guy that you did that with? I'm like,
totally.
Of course.
It's the first time I've ever seen, baby.
There definitely were things that I was like, wow, this is like definitely something I haven't experienced before. But yeah, anytime there was an opportunity to communicate and be vulnerable about something that I hadn't experienced in my past, and like just talk to him about where it was a similar situation. It was like, let's just not even talk about that. You're a virgin. I'm only seeing you. You're only seeing me. Or no, yeah. He always kept that very vague, whether or not he was seeing other people. Always. And, you know, we were never officially boyfriend and girlfriend, but
It's good because he didn't deserve it.
he didn't fucking deserve it.
Okay, so I've been taking notes as we go, and I want to recap some of the similarities, and I want to hear if you guys agree with them. One thing I noticed that all of us said was that at some point along the way, our friends were trying to tell us or warn us or let us know that there were some level of red flags. On my side, you guys both were doing that, right? So I know y'all fucking know you were doing it with me. You said it. I'm curious, Robbie, were people trying to kind of tell you, hey, something's up here, buddy?
Oh yeah, constantly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the problem was it was either that or you have the coolest girlfriend I have ever in my life met or seen. So it was very confusing because she was insanely charming and fun and cool and all the things. Like she made the best first impression on people.
Well, yeah. So it was funny. Like, dude, she was so divisive that like this actually affected some of my friendships. They're like, I don't want to be around her, right? Like, and then other people would be like, she's so dope. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, but then the other thing, it feel like there was this sort of constant trying to recapture what you once had. Like, it seems like we all sort of said some version of that. Do you feel like that be true?
Yeah, like I wanted to try to salvage what we had created from the beginning before like I started to see it kind of go downhill. You know, I wanted to make sure that I was leaving this chapter completely like. I wanted to make sure I dissected everything that I could, and that I am leaving this chapter with no regrets. And I wanted to see what I could salvage, what I couldn't. And that's like where it was hard to talk to friends, except for you, because you were there for me. But like, that's where it was hard to like really go back and try to, and bring up old issues, because like, I knew there were things that I was doing that wasn't the healthiest, and that was toxic behavior. But I was like, I just really want to see this thing through. Like, I don't want to close this chapter and be like, what if I did this? What if I did this better? No, and I don't know if that was partly because, I was in a codependent tendency state, and I think it was both, and partly because I just really wanted to try everything that I could to see this thing through.
So we all had the friends telling us, hey, watch out.
Yeah.
Definitely all had this sort of always kind of chasing what the high that we had before. And remember, I think we all agree the highs were very, very high. At least they were for me. Robbie, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So
the
other thing is this sort of, we've all mentioned this questioning myself. Right? What could I have done better? Like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? This sort of like continuous sort of like beating yourself up and sort of turning in on yourself. It sounds like, I don't know if I thought, Robbie, it sounds like you did. Yes.
Oh yeah. Constantly.
You?
Yeah, for sure.
So there's that. The other thing is this sort of asymmetric effort, right? I know, Robbie, you mentioned that you just felt like you were the only one that was like fighting sort of like this pro relation. I observed this in you, like how hard you were working to try to make excuses for him, sort of like try to find a path forward, right? Like, and you guys know how hard I was working.
Be understanding as much as I possibly could. Like, am I acting crazy? Like, I kept making sure, like, trying to check myself, to look after him. But really, like, there were things that I needed to look after in myself that I was just putting aside.
So I think for me, the hardest thing about this whole thing, and I think you'll both agree with this, was when I was at the most, like feeling the most secure and loved, is when I got hit out of nowhere. I remember specifically when you came back from a trip one time. You came back from this trip, and then something happened, and it was like you came back from the trip smiling, so happy, right? And then something happened, and you were just like, you're so low. And I remember what it was. He told you like he's never gonna,
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you agree with that? Sort of like coming to a place of like love and security, and then just like kind of being cut off.
Yeah, like that's a big thing with the avoidant tendency, the personality type. I feel like, yeah, like it's usually this extravagant big thing where you feel so connected and so good with this person, and I think that's what triggers them to out of nowhere be like, okay, fucking, let's just go back 100 feet. Like let's take 1,000 steps back to where we started.
Whatever that avoidant behavior looks like, that's when it shows. And I think for him it was different. For me, for mine it was different. For something like person, do you sort of agree with that, Robbie? You were like in a place of security, and then you just feel like you just got your life kicked out from underneath you.
Every single time, and each time was worse, and each story is more ridiculous.
Each time was worse. It's totally fucking right, dude. Because it like escalates. Like, and it's funny because I would like corner her and like point out specific behaviors, and like the only way to get me back would be for her to like acknowledge it. But then she would just do a worse thing next time. It's just like, fuck, right? Like, what do we do, you know? Yeah, so I've got this sort of like, the thing I've got, maybe in order of like, I think how bad it is, like that being at the height of vulnerability and security and then just having your life shoved off underneath you and now all of a sudden you're just miserable, right? That sort of constantly trying to recapture that love that you had because the highs were so high, right? Then that sort of turning inwards where you're questioning yourself, like, what did I do? And then that asymmetric effort where you're working too hard when really it's a two-man job, right? Like, I think those are all a big piece of it. And of course, we were all getting warnings along the way because we have people that love us, but none of us fucking pay attention because we're human beings. If human beings paid attention, we'd be a lot better as a species. So and so one other thing I did, one other thing I noticed is this, Robbie, you're the one that didn't speak about this. On mine, Kelly, she would, in these periods of avoidance, come back with gifts on the other side. And I happen to know Matt was a gifter. It was almost like they sort of recognized what they were doing, and on some level they were trying to like fix it, but like in a not emotionally vulnerable.
It was also kind of subconscious. Like there wasn't a particular thing that I think he did wrong, but I felt I started to pick up the pattern. Like, okay, I find out about something that was kind of questionable after he gave me a gift. And so then whenever moving forward, when he would give me gifts, and they'd be extravagant, awesome things that people would be like,
I can attest to that. They were extravagant.
Shit. He had no problem with people in the room showing the gift to me and people being like presenting the gift to me in front of people. He had no problem doing that. And then, yeah. And I could see later, oh wait, it's because what X, Y, and Z happened, and maybe he's just trying to balance out how he's fucking.
Well, I think the gift wasn't really about you as much as it was about them. Does that sound right?
Like to make themselves feel better.
Yes.
They said like, I got this because I knew you'd love it or whatever, and I'm like, there's plenty of things that I would love. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, it seemed like it was more about them to make themselves feel better for something that they did.
Robbie, what's your reaction to that? Is that something you experienced? Maybe not gifts in particular, but like this sort of like way of trying to like make up for what they sort of on some level knew they'd done?
Oh yeah. She knew what gifts I wanted, and those were sexual gifts, and boy did she deliver, and boy did she take them away. So like at the end of Burning Man, she was like, I want a girlfriend. Like we should be in a throuple. And she found this stupidly hot blonde girl from Australia, and we brought her back from Burning Man. And like she knew that was going to get like my validation highs like checked off, and like I was like leaving that situation feeling like the coolest motherfucker ever, right? Like I've got these two hot girlfriends and look at me and blah blah blah. And then like as soon as we get back to LA, sabotage, like done. Why would you do that? Like it's all your fault. Like you're the one who found her. Like what are you talking about? Like so it was just that, like the threesome I mentioned before, like she would always try to make up for it with the sexual gift she knew I really wanted, and then she'd take it away.
So it's interesting we both got like so gifts was a big part of it, but not just because it was like maybe part of their love language, but it seems like they all had something that they wanted to do to compensate for their actions that maybe we weren't fully aware of that they were doing. And for me, one of it was like dates or inviting me to personal things that anyone on the outside could see, like going on a boat with their family, or like having Easter with their family, or going to church, like one-on-one, like things that was like, this is special, they're going to appreciate this. And like that I can easily misconstrue as like, oh wow, this means like maybe things are getting better. But outside of that, it was like when I wasn't there, let's fucking go. Let's invite every person. Let's like pretend like this person's my girlfriend, this person's like, you know, it was just, that was the kind of the gift giving and like dates, special situations.
Well, now I just sort of wish that the gifts I got were more like along the lines Robbie's gifts were.
Trust me, man, you don't want them. You didn't want
Dude,
these. I
actually,
promise.
the way I ended up in a throuple for like a brief 3-month period was actually exactly the same. It was I was an ex-wife now, and sort of same thing. She was like, she knew what she had done. She was trying to figure out how to recapture. It was like her idea, you know, and then like jealousy, and then it was like, yo, this is weird, right? And then it was all of a sudden, like, why did you do this? I was like, I didn't do anything. Yeah. So then, okay, this is great. So it sounds like we've got a few things. They sort of like, when we were very secure, it's when they chop the legs out, constantly trying to recapture that high, questioning yourself, working hard while they're not. Our friends telling us along the way, like, hey, like something's up here. You know, these things kind of like all kind of feel in common. That led to feelings of just confusion, feelings of embarrassment. I suffered from shame a lot during this time period. All sorts of coping mechanisms present. You know, I had some healthy ones, which is like leaning into the inner confidence group. Taylor as a friend, right? I had some unhealthy ones. It sounds like you guys kind of all kind of shared that thing. I'm curious, looking back, I'd like for us to each go, right? Like looking back, knowing what you know now, right? What would you have done differently? Let's start with you.
What would I have done differently from the beginning?
Yeah, if you know what you know now about avoidance, if you understood sort of this stuff.
I knew he was avoidant, and I could like maybe pinpoint it from the beginning.
Well, maybe not pinpoint from the beginning. That maybe you started getting the red flags along the way. So as the red flags started showing up, what do you wish you had done differently?
I wish that I would have prioritized more of my friends and meeting up with them and giving more space to where like I wouldn't jump up when he would invite me somewhere, and just like prioritizing more quality time like with myself, honestly.
Maintain your independent identity.
Maintaining more of my independent identity so that I could let things unravel rather than kind of trying to spend more time with him so I can navigate it and try to like control or fix whatever's happening. Rather, I think the best thing I could have done was taking a step back and just kind of like seeing what he does, paying more attention to their actions and letting that speak more loudly than their words. And that would have saved me a whole lot of shit.
No, the actions over words thing is so huge. That's actually something Robbie taught me.
It's like doing less. Literally, it was more. It would have been so much more. Like I shouldn't have to work that hard and be kind of like monitor the situation to see how to try to like see how much someone is invested in me.
Well, it's one of the things Robbie teaches to the guys in the group. I think is really good. I think it'd be helpful. It's sort of like matching your investment level, right? It's just like when they're investing, you sort of invest, and like if they pull back, you pull back, and you're sort of like keeping that there because it keeps you fucking sane, you know?
It does. Yeah.
Robbie, what do you wish you would have done?
Yeah, if you don't do that, you just end up in a world of pain. Here's the funny thing. I'm sitting here thinking, what would I have done differently? And I'm really struggling to come up with anything because I had so much help along the way from the group. And like, I did a write-up about how we got together, like during, like, you know, the write-up that you did with like I had that like the entire way, the thread going, like every step along the way. And I like, even though people said like, this is bad news, don't do it. It's like, I was like, I fucking have to. Like, you kidding me? Like, I can't, like, I feel this strongly about this person. I have to go all in. Like, I have to like have her move in and have her come with me to Brazil and then Europe. It's like, I don't think it would have been, and I was doing all those things knowing I was like jumping in too fast, but I like had to do them. And there was no way I would have been capable of not doing them, even in retrospect. So it's really hard for me to sit here and say like, what would I have done differently? Because it's like, I felt like I had so much support along the way and I was already at a very high level with understanding this stuff. I really don't know. Like if I would have done anything a whole lot different.
I do feel like with the information I had and what I knew, where I was at, I operated the best that I could. And like, there was literally no other way that I could have reacted going against my instincts and intuition. I think I operated the best that I could and handled it the best I could. But if we were to say what I know now, how I would handle that better, yeah.
So I think actually I appreciate both of you guys because I have other friends who are just like, you need to get away from this girl. Like I have friends who didn't even want to hang out if she's around. And both of you guys sort of had the perspective of like, look, there's a lot of red flags. Like the heart wants what it wants, and it seems like you need to have this experience. And neither one of you, I mean, you both told me your opinion, but neither one of you spent a lot of energy trying to convince me to do something that was against what like all of my deep emotions told me I need to do. And so I really appreciate that about both of you guys. So thank you. In terms of what I would do differently, I would actually have gotten more aggressive with my boundaries sooner because I feel
really, you got
like,
pretty aggressive pretty quick.
You think that, but there were some periods where there was like the sort of like there was like 3-4 weekends in a row where it was like she was over at like 4 a.m. and then would like run away, like.
But I feel like it was such a tough situation because it's like things weren't totally clear about where the attraction was. Like I felt like it was
it's true. It's true. I do that in retrospect, right? Like it's a lot harder in the moment when you're like uncertain. But I got to be honest with you now. At this point, like I'm starting to be like, well, I don't care, right? Like if it turns out that she was as attracted to me, then oh well, I didn't lose very much, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm kind of getting to the point now where it's like, well, I'm really attracted to her, so let's just assume she is too. You know what I mean? Like, how do I really fucking lose, right? Like,
yeah.
And so I actually think that I would have been more clear. I started making real progress, I feel like, in terms of her seeing how I would allow myself to be treated. Once I started saying things like, if you flake on me, you will not see me again for a while. And during that time period, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm not going to tell you what I did, right? Like once I started being really clear and direct, it forced an outcome, right? And I wish I had done that sooner.
But you had established so much attraction already where you could say that, because it's like there's so few people that ever get to the point where they could say that, with a straight face and like really believe it. So yeah, it's tough. I guess one thing that I thought of that maybe I would have actually changed is there was a lot of my behavior during that relationship was out of like sexual validation that I felt like I needed or wanted. And I saw how a lot of that probably rubbed the wrong way on her or pushed her like past her boundaries a little bit. And I think if I was a bit more mature and not so like thirsty for some of those sexual experiences, things would have been a lot smoother. But I still think the outcome probably would have been the same. It just would have been less.
Well, so let me ask you this then. I kind of want to know both of you. Do you regret having your experience?
No.
I wanted to add to like how I would react differently. I would say actually reacting to the red flags instead of kind of like taking it and putting it on a shelf and like holding on to it and recognizing it, but actually reacting to them as far as like, okay, maybe I'm not going to see him this often every week because that is a red flag and I should consider it. And because that's putting myself first and, being more cognizant of me, like honorable of me. And
just go slower. You'd have gone slower. So this is actually something Robbie and I talked about in our last podcast. Is when a boundary violation occurs or a red flag presents, you just pull back on the throttle a little.
And if he questioned it and was like thinking I was acting weird, I'd communicate it. Like, well, like, there's these things that I've noticed and I want to take it slow and let us go slower and get to know you a little bit slower. But yeah, respecting my boundaries more and stuff. And so you were saying, what was your?
Well, I asked the question, like, do you regret having the experience?
Fuck no. Yeah. I learned so much, and I feel like I honestly, looking back at the way I handled it, I'm so proud of myself, and because there were things that were so hard to deal with, and I would not have learned as much as I did if I didn't go through those tough times. And I really got to see a lot of what I was made of. So no.
Totally agree. I totally agree with that perspective. And like I still care for her and wish her the best, but I'm grateful that I went through this. I learned my own strength as a result of this experience.
Yeah, I guess the one other thing I would add is like, had I had like under the constraints I had, I probably would have done a lot different. But knowing now, I would have set the constraints up differently, so we weren't escalating things so quickly. Maybe not moving in together immediately, right? But it was just the nature of both of our jobs and whatnot. And so I'm still friends with her.
You're still friends with her?
Oh yeah, like we're cool. We're totally chill. So
are you gonna send her this podcast?
I'll let her find it. I'll let her find it. You know, she definitely matured a lot. I think she's great. Like a lot of these things were, it's like I don't want to, like, everyone's dealing with their own shit, and under certain situations, certain light, it's like it's so hard to like point the finger. Like these behaviors were definitely a thing, but I don't like sit here thinking like she's bad or she's wrong or she's a this or she's a that. It's just
that's
like
not a useful thing to think, right? Like it's not a useful thing. I also don't think those things either, right? Like actually, it's even hard to say this in I'm still in the hurt phase, right? But like I still love her. I still want good for her. There's a part of me that holds up, like that still holds out for like things working out. But there's a much smarter part of myself that's here talking with you guys, and is like they're not gonna, right? Like they're not going to.
Right.
So I mean, it's like it's not a situation where it's like, oh my God, she's bad and I'm great or anything like that. Like we all got problems.
We're all just trying to navigate.
And none of us are victims, and it's like, of course, you're going to end up like at the end of the day, you just have love for the person. That's kind of where I
will say that one of the things that Robbie's stuff. So Robbie does teach, hey, look, at the beginning, 7 to 10 days between visits, right? Like stuff like that. And he taught me, and he really pushed me to have like I pushed you on this too, have other options, even if you like aren't sleeping with them, right? Because like when some of these red flags start to present, like those things become really important.
Yeah, other options, even if you're not that interested, and even if it's like you are more fixated on this person, like clearly
you're going to be fixated on the person.
Because having those options there, they do help you subconsciously. Like,
I have value, even though this one person doesn't see that value right now. I have value, right?
And so you're not waiting for them to do something that makes you feel good, like waiting to do something that it pushes the relationship forward. You have other options. So
all right. So final word to you, like what's you're talking to like sort of like a guy, he just started seeing somebody who you suspect is avoidance, maybe some red flags are presenting. What's the final word? What's your advice?
You're gonna do it.
Guys, who cares?
It's like you're gonna do it. Wait, I didn't hear that last part. What'd you say?
Like she said guy and girl, I said nah, just guys, who cares?
Bullshit.
This is girls too. The heart wants what the heart wants, right? And I've gotten so much like advice from people over the years. Don't do it. I told you so. I knew this would happen. And I'm just like, cool story, man. Like people need to have their own experiences. They need to go through these lessons. And like, I'm just like, do it. Just do it with awareness. Like, let us help you through it. We have a group for that. We have a community to where you can do this and you can play with fire and maybe not get as badly burned, right? You're going to get a little burned up, maybe a little nicked, a little cut, but you're going to be okay, right? And you're going to learn from the experience, and it's just going to prepare you for like a better situation down the road. And that way, when that Mrs. Right or Mr. Right comes along, like you've had these other experiences and you're just so much more like ready to be in a healthy, loving relationship because of them. I mean, I think that's really the most logical and most likely outcome, I think, because people are, no matter what, like you tell that teenager, don't do this. Of course, they're just going to do it, right? Is to say, don't date that girl. She's bad for you. Oh, okay. I'm in. Count me in for that.
So it's like, do it, go through with it, and make sure you have a community that you can lean on and talk about this stuff through, because things are going to get kind of hard, like blurred, hard to dissect between you and this other person. You're going to need another community to help you process things, and know your boundaries, know what you're willing to do and not do, and respect them and honor them.
Going it alone is like, so if you're right, you're gonna do it. Like, there's not even a point of discussing whether you're gonna do it or actually gonna fucking do it, right? So like, you're gonna do it. Don't go it alone. I think is the biggest point.
That's the biggest thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Love you guys. This was so much fun.
Super fun.
So so much.
Peace, bro.
See you guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you're new to the show and digging our content, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, wherever you listen or watch. But if you're not really digging it, go ahead, just don't leave us any review at all. That'd be great. If you're feeling a little bit stuck or you just want to optimize and step up your game, we've opened up a few spots in our Inner Confidence community. We're accepting applications if you want to join our select group of men and experience the radical power of accountability, cross everything off your sexual bucket list, and just become a beast who gets more stuff done. To learn more and apply, go to start.innerconfidence.com.